Welcome to Beach Theory.
Welcome back to Beach Theory, everybody. We're super excited to be here with you today. Rebecca is still pregnant.
Never-ending pregnant.
38 weeks, though, so any day, literally any day.
Yeah.
And what's good is they'll be breaking her water in 6 days. So
I have an induction date.
guaranteed
which I have never
last
had
podcast
before.
while she's pregnant.
I've never been induced before.
You have.
I've been induced, but I've never gone in with.
You've never had an appointment.
Yeah.
It's
so
always
crazy.
just been spontaneous.
I hope it spontaneously happens before then.
Me too.
Oh, it would be
Because I just
nice.
feel like that's better. We're not forcing the situation.
Yes, my body will just naturally have a baby.
Have the baby. But we're excited because for Beach Theory, we have a fun episode today, and I'm really excited. Yep. Last time we talked about big epic treasure hunt number 2 and how viral that went and how good it did for our channel. Well, actually, we didn't talk about it. We talked about what took to build that treasure hunt.
Yes.
And today, we're going to be talking about kind of what happens next in the beach house.
What happened?
Life.
So it started going viral very quickly. And it, by viral, millions of views.
Yeah.
And now it's at how many?
25 million, I think.
25 million or so.
So what's interesting is we posted that video and it started just totally exploding.
Yep.
And we already had plans before even filming that video to go on a trip, I think, to go down to Zion's Ponderosa Ranch.
Oh, yeah.
And so I reached out to them. I said, hey, we do treasure hunts. If we did a fun treasure hunt here at your ranch and filmed it, the video is going to perform well. We'll shout out your, the resort. And then that'll be kind of the trade-off. And they were like, cool, yeah, we'll hook you up with a place for 3 days.
Yeah.
So I remember we filmed episode 2 of the Epic Treasure Hunt series. And then, I think it was exactly 7 days later that we did the second treasure hunt, or the treasure hunt down at Zion.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember we posted that video, and it was very soon after the second treasure hunt was performing really well. And I remember it got hundreds of thousands of views in 1 hour.
And it was insane. And we were all freaking out.
And we've never had that happen since or before.
Ugh.
And it was
I want that to happen.
blowing my mind because I remember
Again.
hanging out in the comments of the video that we posted down at Zion. And I remember hanging out in the comments and being like, I cannot keep up with these comments.
Yeah.
For an hour. They were going so many comments so fast. I could not keep up. And I was like,
Yes.
this has never happened before. This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I remember being really happy about that. And coming up back to the ranch, the resort, and being like, oh my gosh, guys, we totally nailed this video for you guys. I hope you guys are the happiest you've ever been in your life because we just totally blew it out of the park for you.
Yeah.
And they weren't very happy with us.
No, because they had never worked with influencers before and they did not know what to expect. So their expectations were very high, higher than millions of views.
I think they'd worked with Instagram people, but never YouTubers.
Yeah, they were expecting a very high return on their investment in us.
I think they expected a ton of traffic.
They wanted
right off the
people
bat.
to buy actual, book. They wanted people to book their resort stay, and that didn't happen. They got a lot of traffic to their website, but they did not actually get a lot of people booking. And so they're like, it totally wasn't worth it for us. And we were just like, you got millions of views. And, you never know what to expect, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably
I think people are all kind of inexperienced for the most part with influencers, most businesses.
The most successful brand deal we'd ever done.
Yeah.
And they were not happy with us.
Yeah.
It was really sad because I felt like we really...
It gave us a bad taste in our mouth for brand deals, actually.
And that was the first big one we'd ever done.
Yep.
Because it was several $1,000s worth. They didn't pay us a cent, but they gave us free lodging, and that had value.
That was a big brand deal for us.
And for us at the time, we'd never done anything that big. And I remember thinking, I hope we do a good job.
And we did a great job.
I was like, I don't want to lie and tell them that we're going to, do a good job and then have the video just, flop. Because then I'll feel, super crummy.
And it did so good. It was one where we actually, on their property, buried some treasure. So people would have to actually book their stay there to go find it. And they did. Some people actually did go find it. And we put T-shirts in there. We wanted to make it so it was kind of almost a reusable treasure hunt that people would be able to go back and I mean, maybe it's still there. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
But we did like the very best we could, and I was so proud of that.
And it did so good. And you know what? We can look back on that and go, now with the information we have, we did a great job.
Yep.
And it really was a great brand deal. The only thing that's bad about it is their opinion on how it went. Like everything, really. I think even nowadays they would probably be like, oh, that was actually really good, you know.
Yeah.
But it takes time sometimes for brands to see the return.
Right.
In order to, you know, feel like it was a successful brand deal.
Right. And I think that, you know, like Becca mentioned, this is the first time a brand had ever worked with, like, that brand had ever worked with. That.
Amanda's looking for you.
Pay attention. Sorry. Totally. What was I saying? Oh. That brand. Okay, so
Amanda.
Here's the deal. There's distractions around our studio. We need to like have deadbolt locked solid steel doors.
Yeah. No, our sound technician, Cody.
Is being summoned by his
wife.
so beautiful wife.
Also, look at this pillow. Check it out. We have this awesome beach house pillow.
It is available for purchasing.
It's square. It's blue. It's pretty.
And it will change your life.
And it's very well made. It's like a really nice canvas feel that's very decorational.
Canvas?
Yeah.
It is a little bit.
Canvas
canvas-y.
feel. Yeah, it's really nice. I love it. And it's for sale.
That's a beach house brand.
That's our brand. Yep.
This is a paid sponsorship by the beach house.
By us. We paid ourselves to say that.
Good job on that brand deal.
Thanks. That was a high five that was meant to be $10.
Yeah.
I feel ripped off, and give me $10. That's a kiss.
But
not
it's worth $10.
I want real money. Just kidding.
You don't love me?
I do.
Okay, good.
I do love you.
So that was like our biggest. I remember reaching out to them, and I remember being like really nervous.
Oh, it's
because we'd never
so
done a brand
scary.
deal like that.
Brand deals are intimidating.
And we were at a point where we were doing all these treasure hunts, and our channel was exploding. And I was like, all of my friends that were big YouTubers were doing all these brand deals, and I was like, Rebecca, like, we need to do brand deals too.
Well, okay.
We're worth it. You know?
Yes, we are worth it. You are worth it.
You are worth it.
That's the Tannerites. That's their saying, just in case,
slogan.
our friend. So, yeah, we actually had some friends that were doing really, really well with it. And we had heard that there's actually Devin Supertramp at one time did an instructional. I think it was at like CVX Live, but
it was at one of the YouTuber meetups.
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
So Devin Supertramp was like, we do like 80% of our money is made from brand deals, not AdSense on YouTube. And we were like, what? Because 100% of our money that we were making was from AdSense on YouTube.
And I was like, what if all of our AdSense represented only 20% of our income?
That was when we were like, we need to do brand deals.
Could you imagine if all of our AdSense right now represented 20% of our income?
Oh, we would be doing a lot better. That would be awesome.
Well, we're working on more brand deals now.
Yes.
I still, like, even though it's been 2 years, I still feel like I'm new when it comes to brand deals.
Yes.
Like
brand deals are difficult because it's kind of like a whole new language of etiquette. You don't know what's acceptable, what's not acceptable at first. It's kind of one of those things that you have to just do it and experience it before you know what to do and what not to do, in a way.
I remember when I reached out to the Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort thinking, I want to go there anyway.
And we're not trying to slander them, by the way. They're really, really great.
Yeah, like, honestly, that place is awesome. And we've been back since.
And I would suggest you guys go, too, because it's really great.
And they're not paying us to say that.
No,
but either way, what I'm trying to get at is I remember wanting to book a stay there anyway. I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? We're going to go anyway. Let's at least try and reach out and see if maybe they'll sponsor us staying there.
Uh-huh.
And I remember thinking, if they say no, we'll go anyway because I really like the place.
Yep.
But it's good practice trying to negotiate and work with the brand.
Yes.
And so when I reached out, they were like, okay, yeah, let's talk about this. And the guy I talked to had to talk to his boss, and they had to talk to their committee. And like the way he made it sound was, it was like this big hubbaloo hoopla thing.
It was
like,
very confusing
official.
And new to them.
Yeah.
So they had to make it
and I was like, wow,
official
like,
and
they're taking this really seriously.
Yeah.
I was like, we're just influencers. Like, it's not that big a deal.
it's not that big a deal.
But anyway, they ultimately came back and
that
said,
reminds me of the princess.
we held a council and we've decided that you're worthy. So I was like, great.
I dub thee influencer for Zion Ponderosa Ranch.
Anyway, he said, let's do it. And it was really great. Like, while we were there, they hooked us up. And it was really, really fun experience.
Yes.
And it wasn't until afterwards that they were kind of like, well,
We don't know if it was worth it.
we didn't get it. It was like, they weren't like mad.
No, they were just kind of like,
it
probably
didn't-
won't do that again.
Didn't really do as well as we'd thought. And I was like thinking, oh my gosh, it got 1 million views.
Yeah.
Like, well,
Uh,
sorry.
So, if you're listening to our podcast thinking we have a place that we want to promote, we love traveling. We would love to come and bury treasure on your property so that other people have to come and stay at a nice place and dig up your property.
Break out your walls.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
But we could do something that would be fun.
It's been fun
Yeah.
to learn how to work with brands. And I feel like that was our first, like experience with the big brand.
Oh, yeah.
Doing a deal that was like valued at thousands of dollars.
Yes. More than $1,000 was like a big deal.
Back then.
Yeah.
We've done quite a few now that are over that now. So
Yeah.
we've kind of grown. We've learned a lot.
We know what to expect at this point.
So that summer, I mean, what else happened that summer? I think like that was when we were like, we did that treasure hunt there at Zion, and after that we were like, let's start doing more small, like
Yes.
monthly. Let's do treasure hunt every
Achievable.
month. Because Ryan was kind of like, this was when he had PTSD. Like after episode 2,
Oh my goodness.
he was just like,
He was watching his treasure hunt video over and over and over again. One of the things that he is a perfectionist. He just has to have it a certain way, perfect. And when we did the treasure hunt, we figure things out not exactly like how he planned it for months in his brain. And so it kind of stressed him out a lot.
so he'd create a clue. And in his mind, he imagined us solving it in one way. But we'd come in and we'd solve it this way. And
Yes.
he's kind of like,
Mind blown. Like it would legit blow his mind. And he didn't know what to do. And sometimes, did we miss one? I think we missed one clue.
I just remember him coming home, like, periodically while he was building the treasure hunt. And him
Yes.
being frazzled.
Yes, because
Like,
it wasn't
on
going
edge.
like he thought it would.
Like, while he
It was
was
harder.
building it, he would just be like, I'm so exhausted because I literally wake up every morning. I have 16-hour days, and all I'm doing is working on treasure hunt stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, Ryan, take a break.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, slow
chill
down.
out. But he just gets so obsessive when he's working on projects.
Yes.
And I think since then, because it's now become his like full-time career,
Yeah.
working for us professionally, like I think he's had to learn to
Well, he sees
manage
that
his
we're
time.
not like killing ourselves to make this happen.
right.
We have to be able to also be parents
Right.
and family members. We both come from huge families. I have 9 kids in my family. He has 9 kids in his family too. And coming from that big of a family, there's going to be family get-togethers. There's going to be a lot of time that the family wants to spend with each other, and we are all pretty close-knit. So, like, add that on top of being parents to 4 kids and almost 5, and we have to be able to not run faster than we have strength, like do what we are able to do. And especially during this pregnancy, we've really, really, really had to be like, okay, what's top priority? Get that done. Nothing else. Like, nothing else. Let's not get little things in the way. Like, I think we have literally fine-tuned ourselves at this point, and we're always trying to fine-tune it. That's just what we're always working
But
on.
Ryan had to learn how to check out and be like, okay, I'm done working for the day. I'm going to enjoy myself.
I need
and
a break.
I'm not gonna think about it.
And not feel guilty or not feel like I have to work every second of every day.
And I think he's getting a lot better.
Totally.
He doesn't obsess like he used to.
Yeah.
He doesn't get so fixated on a project that he literally can do nothing until it's done.
Yes.
I think he still kind of has episodes where he does.
Yeah, like right
work,
now.
Like hyper focused on things.
He's hyper focused on like getting the 2 houses worked out. We're trying to rent out our other house, like just clean it up and finish packing.
But he spends days not going over there.
That's true.
He's not that hyper focused, or he'd be done by now.
That's true.
Anyway, I think he's getting really good at managing himself.
Yeah, I think it's better. It's something you learn, I guess, as you get older. Try not to kill yourself as you work as hard as you can to keep yourself alive and your family fed.
So it was that same summer that I think it was that same summer that your parents moved out.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yes, I think it was.
It was that same summer.
Well, it took a very long time to get them moved. It felt like a very long time.
Let's see. This would have been 2017. Because this was after year 2. We just finished year 2 on the beach house.
Yes.
The spring of year 3. So it was 2017.
And my parents really wanted to move.
Yep.
I had grown up in this small town, Mount Pleasant, Utah, and I loved it. But the whole family had moved away at that point. Like, they had just Jared and Shinaway in the house, I think, which are my youngest siblings.
Because Jessica was living with us
full
time, and Ryan.
And all of the rest of the kids in the family had moved at least an hour away. So they had none of the kids. And that's 9 kids. So 7 of the kids were very far away. And they were like dying to be around grandkids and around their kids and hang out and be able to do that. But it was just, they were too far away. And they weren't happy there anymore. It was a good place to grow up, but they didn't want to live there anymore. So they...
Your mom for years had been talking about moving from Mount Pleasant and kind of complaining about what she didn't like about Mount Pleasant. And I think you and I were both finally at a point where we're like, hey, look, let's help them get out of that house. Because they've been talking about doing it forever, but never actually doing it.
And it's not just that. Like, it was a health issue, too. My parents... my dad has a bad back, and my mom has bad hips.
Yeah.
And in that house, it was an old pioneer house, and the steps in that house to go upstairs, which is where their bedroom was, and then like the kitchen and everything was downstairs. It was so steep, the stairs, that it would hurt both of them. Like, my dad had to go backwards down the stairs, not forwards.
Walking up the stairs backwards.
Yep, or kind of crawling to go up the stairs.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that's not cool. Like, he's grandpa. He's not needing
60 years old.
He does not need to be in a house that's hurting him.
Yeah.
And same with my mom. I was like, you don't need these stairs.
Every day, multiple times a day, up and down these stairs.
Hauling laundry, doing all the things that they used to could do, and it was no problem. But now it was like, and not only that, but like, the house was old. Things needed to be updated. It was falling apart.
Yep,
9 kids were raised there. Like, they had all of their workers were gone by this point. So they kind of didn't have the help they needed in order to fix it up. They were still young, and so
whatever, they were in high school.
But anyways,
they were just untrained.
So they one day I had been talking with my mom, and I was just,
Let's talk about everything.
Okay.
Why not?
Because I don't want to seem braggy.
This is real. Like, I want to tell our history as we remember it, and if we did something good, let's just tell it like it is. Like, we're not embellishing it. We're not making it sound bigger than it is. This is what happened.
Then we will just say the facts,
just
so
the
that
facts.
It's not like bragging or
and
like I've always had an issue with this. In fact, one of my biggest issues was on the follow-up video to the first treasure hunt when we gave away all that cash.
Yeah.
I had a really big issue.
I remember that. I forgot about that.
Like, with handing out that money on camera. I was like, it's like it's taking away the genuineness of it.
Yeah.
And it's like people could say, oh, you're just doing this to look good. It's like praying in front of lots of people so they know how spiritual you are. You know what I mean? Like, That I had a really
you had
hard
a
time
hard
with
time
that.
with that. But we talked a lot about it, and we're like, you know what? We want to be a good example for the world too.
And there's not very many, like, I mean, I'm not saying there's not very many good people out in the world, but there is a lot of bad stuff on the internet and bad examples, lots of things that I wouldn't want my kids watching. And I think
There's a lot of good happening in the world, but people just don't talk about it because they don't want to brag, like you said.
it's like being prideful by just
By talking
showing
about it.
or talking about it. I haven't told this on the internet at all, by the way.
How nervous you were about giving and doing it on camera? Or?
Well, I had learned from that video of giving away cash how uncomfortable it made me. So we have done really nice, good things for people since then, but like I have been very adamantly almost against sharing that online. Like I haven't told anybody this.
Yeah.
But in person, maybe, yeah, I'll tell people in person if they ask about it or whatever. But like, I haven't openly put this on the internet, so.
So I think it's just good to know, like, hey, look, we're sharing this not because we're trying to brag. Like, if we do a good thing, we did a good thing.
And
We're not trying to hide that. You know, we can't be like, oh, I'm going to do good things right now and no one's allowed to know that I'm doing good things. And I think a lot of people do that because they don't want to brag or they don't want to appear prideful. And we're not doing the opposite because we do want to brag or we are wanting to be prideful. We're trying to share goodness. And if we're doing good things, we want to share that. And maybe it will inspire others
to do good things too.
But still, at the end of the day, it's what we did. This is a history.
This is our history. And I also want to say, like, you know, when we first showed the treasure hunt, lots of people came and begged us for money because they thought that we had lots of money. Right. And even now, in saying this, I'm like a little bit nervous because I don't want to have to tell the world, no, I can't help you with money. But this is the biggest part about it. So my mom and my dad physically were having a big issue with living in the old pioneer home that they were in, that we did the second treasure hunt in, because it was hurting them, like physically hurting them. And I just kept saying a prayer, like, please send some help. Like, they don't have the money to get out right now, and I don't think they ever will. Like, they're always living paycheck to paycheck. That's what they have, and they're physically not able to like go do more than they're already doing. And I just felt in their case like they were so trapped where they were. And you know, we had just done the second treasure hunt and we were starting to do pretty good. Like, for the first time ever, we actually had a couple thousand more each month than we were spending.
Right.
And I was like, this is crazy. We've never had this before. And it was so great for us. And yet, we came home from one of the trips we went on. I'm not sure which one it was, but my dad was like, I was looking at rental houses and I just get a really good feeling like maybe we should start looking at rental houses like further north up by the rest of the family. And I think he asked at that time if we would be willing, and I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna pray about it.
I thought you and I had been talking about that first.
We also had talked about it.
Because you and I were kind of like, okay, we want to help your parents. And
well, so there's two separate times, and I think the first one that I was praying, I was so distraught. I think I had just gotten off the phone with my mom, and she was just saying, you know, physically she was doing really bad. She was not able to feel better any day because she was always up and down the stairs and it just hurt her a lot. Right. So I went for a walk in a huff, kind of just like, what can I do? What can we do? We have to do something. I just feel so helpless. And I just got this feeling like, rent them a house. Get them out.
I think at the same time I was independently feeling inspired, like, maybe we should help them out. Maybe we should get them a rental. Because I remember talking to you about it, or either you brought it up or I brought it up. But either way, I remember we were instantly on the same page.
And I remember going home.
Because I remember thinking the same thing, like, what if
it wasn't this crazy idea and you weren't like, what? I don't want to have to pay for that.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, we've been so close to your family for years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to help your parents too. Like,
Yeah.
And now that we're doing really well on YouTube and we have a little bit extra cash, I was like, what if we got them a rental? And
Just get them out, and we can figure out something else later. But for now, like this is where they were at. They had so much stuff, and it wasn't their stuff. It was like 9 kids growing up, kind of leaving everything that they had at the house that they didn't really want, or that they didn't want to have to keep track of. And so like it was just a house filled of skeletons of yesterday. No. But like things that they didn't really want, and was kind of a burden on my mom, and just they had a lot of stuff.
So we're like, let's get them out.
Let's
and
get a
we
big
talked to your
house.
mom and dad, and they were like, wow, like, okay,
Let's do it.
I think they were kind of like,
I actually think they were unsure.
Like it was almost like, wait a minute, this
Really?
could actually happen. We've been talking about doing this for years. Now that it's actually a possibility, I think it's really scary.
When you say like, I want this, but it's a scary thing, and it's not a familiar thing. They'd lived in that house for like 17 years. That's a long time to live in a single place, and they were so familiar with it. They were so familiar with the pain of it. They were
comfortable with that.
Comfortable with it, even though they knew they wanted to be in a better place.
It wasn't good. They were just comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And so we're like, well, let's get them out. And I remember we talked to them, and it took a while, but eventually they were like, okay, let's do it.
So my mom was doing a lot at the time. Like, they were having yard sales, and they were doing what they knew and what they could do, like to get out of the house and to be able to move. But I guess from an outsider's perspective, I was like, that's not quick enough.
Yeah.
Like, they're hurting now. They're in pain now. But they were like ultimately planning to get to that point where they would have enough.
Eventually.
But
when they could.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing is, when you don't have enough money, when you do make money, it ends up going to something that you really need, like
an outstanding bill,
right. Or like tires for the car, or gas money, things that are not really extra, and you kind of have to spend your money on that. So that's kind of the situation they were in, where they were trying their very hardest, and it just wasn't happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they weren't doing nothing. They were doing the best they could with what they had.
Lots of different jobs. My dad would fix tractors, do wood. He was doing wood he had his own wood mill down there, but he developed an allergy to the wood. To the sawdust.
Yeah.
And so like that was another thing. I was like, they're doing what they can, what they know how to do, but it's hurting them.
And I think it was harder too,
and
because
it made me mad.
All the people that were living with them, your older siblings in the family that were living at home, that were big helpers.
Yes.
Were all moved away.
Yes.
And all they had was Jared and Shinaway, who were in high school, and they were
just living their lives, being high school
involved
students.
In high school, and that was a big part of their life. It took up a lot of time.
They were not helpless. Mom and Dad are not helpless. Like, they've always worked a lot of their big butts
helpers
off.
Were gone.
Yes.
And so it's kind of like they were kind of realizing, like, oh my gosh, this is really hard to do all this.
Yes. Take these people.
Yeah.
A good way for me to explain what they're like is you take 2 people who have worked and worked and worked, and worked so hard that my dad broke his back, and my mom's cartilage in her hips are just wearing away. Like, she went to the doctor, got it checked when they had the money to, and found out that her bones, it's bone on bone. Like, she doesn't have the cartilage in between that's like the cushion anymore. Like, that's the type of health issues they have because they've worked so hard. And then it's like a catch-22, because the harder they work, the more pain they have, and then the less they can work, even though that's what they need to do in order to get out.
Yeah, I've always been really impressed with your parents' work ethic. Your mom and dad are both such hard workers. They're not lazy at all. And we were like, okay, we're in a position where we could help them financially. Yeah. And despite their best efforts, they weren't able to get ahead like they were trying to financially. And we're like, hey, look, let's help.
Well, I think
we can't do everything. Yeah. But we can help a little bit.
Well, I think sometimes, too, like, the single adults would have an emergency. I mean, like, I don't remember any specific occasion where they would like give out money to the family, but I do know they were always there for the family.
Right.
Like, even if it was just time or making sure that they could, I don't know, just support and be there. And sometimes it put them behind financially, but it was only if it was like absolutely necessary. I don't know.
I think that's a big reason. Like, your mom and dad work so hard, but I feel like they're never really compensated financially for their efforts.
No.
A lot of people might take advantage of them, or
And I
family
think-
members expect it for free.
Yes.
And
And
so
I think
they work
there
their
were a
butt
lot
off, but there's
of
nothing to show for it
exactly.
financially.
And I think there were a lot of people just in the community who had learned of that reputation with them, knew that they could kind of get it for a much better deal from my parents or from our family, because we were very service oriented. And
Generous.
we believed that was good.
Very generous, very giving.
And we still believe that's good.
Right.
But I think that they were undervalued and didn't get paid what the amount that they deserved. That's what I think.
And so we were at a place financially where we're like, hey, why don't we pay your parents?
They're the perfect example of somebody who deserves it and doesn't have it.
Right. So we're like, your parents do so much for everybody in the family. They do a lot for us. Why don't we pay them?
Mm-hmm.
And then have them use that money to help them get into a rental property close by so that they can get out.
And this was with the intention of saying, hey, we need a costume maker.
That's right. It was a good excuse for our business. Like, hey, we need some. And she did. She helped us a ton. So we're like, okay, we need someone to help do costume design and conception of stories.
We talk like, oh, we did them a favor. But really, we hired them.
Yeah.
And they started working for us. And that's how it worked out.
It started out of us saying, how can we help them?
Yeah.
And it ended up being, how can they help us? And we can then help them.
Yeah.
So it's become a help.
It's
we
just
help
mutually
them, they help us.
beneficial. Yeah.
And so we were able to take that extra funds and get them into a rental property. And we're like, okay, well, let's get everything moved out. Like, let's take everything from your old house. Let's get it all moved out.
Which was very difficult after 17 years of living in a house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 9 children, 11 people.
And it took like probably several months.
I would say like 3 or 4.
To get everything out. Well, we did it all in one day, like the necessities, so they
Yes.
could be living in the new rental.
Yes, with the bare minimal.
And then they went back for trips for more stuff, like
All
every
the time.
day. They were getting more stuff, bringing
Yeah.
it. And what's good is like they did a lot of like dejunking, decluttering, getting rid of stuff
Yeah,
that
well,
was
I
like
mean,
old
it
things
was
that
the
just
kids left
been
behind.
storing forever. You know, for your siblings, like, hey, come get your stuff. You know,
A lot of that happens, I think, just when kids grow up and move out of the house. They kind of just leave. You know, you're not going to bring a doll from your childhood or an old dress from your childhood to college with you. You know, like you just kind of leave those things behind. And it's
really
mostly those types. Or it's like nostalgic things that mom wanted to hold on for them so that when they did get married, maybe they could hand it down to their children's, or their children. So anyway, all good intentions. It just put them in a bad place, and
it was good.
We had to kind of get them out.
Finally, get out. Like,
and it's really not because I look at it like this. This money's not even ours.
Yeah.
Like, I really truly believe, like, I think, and I've seen this time and time again, when we've put our money in the right place where I feel prompted by, like, God to put it, we put it there and we make more money. Like, we put it in a place where he says, this is the right place, this is my money, this is where it's supposed to go. And we trust that, and then he trusts us with more money, and then we're able to help more people, and then we're able to do more with our channel, and, like,
that's
we're just
really
blessed
good point.
more.
We look at the financial gain and all the things that we've been blessed with physically, and we look at it as like a stewardship.
Yeah.
Like, we don't own everything that we've built. We're just the stewards over it, trusted with more because we've done well with what we've been entrusted thus far.
Yeah.
So, like, Heavenly Father's blessed us with success and financial success, and if we manage our money well, we'll be blessed with more.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the trade that we don't think of it as we earn this. This is ours. I can do whatever I want with this. This is an entrusting.
Which was also a growing pain, I feel like, at one point, because I remember there was like maybe a month or two in between before we decided to hire mom and dad and have them work for us, and when we just started making enough money that like we had more than we needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember during that time, I've never in my life been in that situation up until that point. And I was so confused as to what to do. Like, I mean, obviously we could spend it on whatever, like we could spend it all. We could have spent it all. But we had kind of caught up with all the things that we had needed over time that we were putting off, you know, like
we paid off our debts.
Yeah. We were like trying to really put it in the right place and not just spend it on frivolous things.
Right.
And we had gotten to that point where we had a little bit extra cash. And I remember feeling this feeling of greed, like rise up in me, like, we earned this. We deserve this. This is so, like, we are entitled to this because we've worked so hard and it is our money. Like, I remember feeling that way. And then I was like, why do I feel this way? We're okay. Like, we have everything we need. What's going on? Like, it was this weird, I had to physically and like mentally choose how my attitude towards money could be healthy or hurtful. And I thought to myself, well, I mean, we could go on vacation. We could do this. We could do that. We have all these things we could spend this money on, like, just because it's extra. And I think ultimately there was a couple months in there where I was just like, this is ours. This is ours. This is ours. Let's just save. Let's just keep. Let's just greed it. And then ultimately we had this opportunity to come up with mom and dad, and it felt right. It was just like, oh, that's where that's supposed to go. Oh yeah, this isn't our money. Like, it was like reassuring me that this was really not ours to begin with. Like, we were blessed. And it wasn't, you know, almost to the point where I felt like maybe all of this will be taken away if we don't make the right decision with it.
Why not? I mean,
Right?
how many times we are faithful religious people and we read the scriptures, and there's lots of experiences in the scriptures where people get greedy or
Yeah.
they get prideful and they think, oh, it's all me, I'm so awesome, and then they fall.
Yeah.
You know, pride comes before the fall.
And things get taken away.
And so we've been very careful to say, okay, this is a stewardship. We've been entrusted by God with this. We need to use it righteously. What is the right thing to do with this money? And so we don't just give it away to anybody. We're
also like, if
very
somebody,
careful and careful
Yes.
and wise. Like,
we've had a lot of people ask us for money.
we have to be wise. We're not just going to give it to anybody that asks,
Mhm.
because that's not a wise thing. And we've been very careful. Like, is this the right thing to do with the money at this time? To try and listen to what Heavenly Father wants us to do.
Because I believe that Heavenly Father does say, no, some people need to learn a lesson, or some people, like, it's not up to us. We don't get to say, you need to learn a lesson. You haven't learned how to manage money wisely yet, so we're not going to bless you with money. It's not like that. It's like what happens if somebody comes up and asks me or Michael or any of us for money, I say a prayer and I try to put my mind in a spot that I would be perfectly fine either way. Like, and I really am sincere about that. Like, would I be perfectly fine if I gave them the money and they did whatever they wanted with it? Okay. And would I be perfectly fine? Like, yes. And then would I be perfectly fine if I didn't give them the money and they had to learn a hard lesson? Yes, but only because I want to do what you want me to do, Heavenly Father. You know what I mean? So, like, I would, if I can get myself into that space, to that mind space, then I say a prayer, and whatever answer feels better to me, that's what we go with.
And, you know, I think about our life and the struggles that we had. You know, if you listen to all of our podcasts, you'll hear, like, how hard it was for us for so many years struggling.
Yeah.
And if someone had just come in and said, oh, you're struggling, here, let me take away all of your problems,
Here's $5,000.
we never would have learned the lessons
Oh my goodness.
that were necessary for us to get where we are today. Like, that money would have been nice in the moment, and we would have been like, oh my gosh, thank you, you're the best person in the whole world.
But we weren't mentally prepared.
We wouldn't have learned, like, it would not have been helping us.
It would have been setting us back.
We would think it's helping us because we're getting all this money, but it's not helping us because we're not learning. And this life is the time for us to learn and grow and improve. And sometimes poverty is what's needed to teach those lessons.
I 100% agree with that, because I wouldn't change a single one of the trials we went through to get where we are. Like, it made all the difference.
It made us who we are. And we've learned and we've grown so much because of it. And I think that's so valuable.
And it had to be getting to that point of desperation. It had to be. We look back and we're like, wow, everything lined up exactly as it should when we were learning how to get to where we are now. Like, it had to happen that way. And so we couldn't have been no one could have swooped in and saved us from our own bad decisions or from our own lack of knowledge. Like, we had to just learn those things. We had to go through it.
And we don't want to be that person to come in and swoop and save somebody else, because in all reality, we could be crippling them from learning those lessons that they need to learn.
And so we always pray before we help someone. But you know how I feel about my parents is they have worked their tails off. They have worked so hard over and over again. And they're really, really nice people that give other people the benefit of a doubt and get taken advantage of sometimes. When it came to my parents, I just felt like it felt right because they had worked and worked, and we weren't taking away a learning experience from them. They had tried their hardest. They had done their best. And so it was just the right time, and the money was meant to go in that place, and it just all felt right, and it fell into place perfectly. So it was the right decision at that time. I feel like I could talk about this all day because it's a very confusing topic to other people who don't do it the way we do it. And
I almost feel like we could have a podcast dedicated to
just this topic.
Financial, thoughts.
Yeah. Our financial thoughts, how we do what we do and why we do what we do. Because sometimes, when we're prompted by God, when we feel like we're praying and we're asking and we're receiving answers, those things that we end up doing from that point on just don't make sense to other people.
Sometimes. Not always.
Sometimes.
It's not like every decision we've made is like nonsense.
No. It's not like that. But there are some times where, it just doesn't make sense to people. And we're like, well, it doesn't necessarily make sense to us either. But we're doing what we feel is the right thing to do. What answer we got. We're going by that. And you know what? It hasn't steered us wrong.
And you say it doesn't make sense, but I don't do something unless it makes sense to me. And so every decision we made makes sense logically. I'm not going to say it's the best investment of our money, but I will say that I feel like it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And I feel really good about it. I'm not like, this doesn't make any sense, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm like, no, this is right. I feel really good about this.
Well, sometimes there have been times, though, where it's like, this is a huge leap of faith, and I'm not sure if this makes sense. Like quitting your job when we weren't ahead yet.
That was definitely a leap of faith. But I felt like it was the right time.
Yeah, ultimately it would be okay.
I guess I feel so strongly like it's the right thing or the right time. It's logical to you. That it becomes logical. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like my heart convinces my mind.
I think that's a very good thing to be able to even do that, to convert to have a question and ask Heavenly Father and have these ideas of what you think is right, and then have him tell you something that maybe might be different from what you thought was right. Right. And then to be able to transfer your analytical brain into going, that's logical because he said it is. Right. Or he said it's the right thing, so it's logical to me. Right. Anyways. This is getting really deep into why we do what we do.
Well, we love your guys' feedback. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave us a comment.
This is a very sensitive topic to me. Yeah. Please be respectful because I I'm not going to change how I do it for anyone. Like, I feel like I feel very good about how we finance,
How we choose to do the
how we
things
choose
do.
what we pay for, what we don't pay for, how we pick and choose.
But if you have any questions specifically relating to the topics we just talked about today, please leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Send us a voice message on Anchor. But you can listen to us on all the places that podcasts are, and we want to know what you guys think. And we want to answer your questions, too, and talk more about this for sure in the future. Because I think this is going to come up more and more as our life has been changing financially.
Yes.
And we have been growing to be able to manage finances in a different way.
Yeah.
It's going to become more of a topic that we talk about because previous...
It's more a part of our life.
Yeah, it's more of a part of our life.
You know, you when you have very little money, you don't have to ask, where should I put this?
Right.
You
What's
know where it has to go.
Food.
There's no...
Bills.
Yeah, there's gas money. There's
Right.
no
We've been
question.
there. Yeah.
It's just once we have been blessed more or beyond what we need to survive that we start asking this question more and more. What do we do? Where do we put it? What's the best use of our money?
Mm-hmm. So anyway, thanks for tuning into Beach Theory today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. This was a really fun one for us. At least for me, I know I enjoyed what we talked about today. So
This is so sensitive of a topic. I'm almost like,
should
should we even post this?
So stay tuned for more fun and adventures on Beach Theory every single week and every day on